Hey guys, and thank you so much for joining me today. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing our January week 4 budget check-in. So if you've been following me each week, I've been going in, I've been checking our spending, trying to allocate all our income to the different categories. We expect it to go with our budget, and just trying to make sure we get our all budget figured out. So what I'm noticing as I'm going through is that there obviously first month actually going in and being really strict with our budget. There's some things that we'll probably have to change for next month. One of those things is sinking funds. The way I'm doing sinking funds and the way I decide to do sinking funds, that I will cover in another video. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit subscribe. You'll get any notifications on any videos that are coming up, and that sinking funds video will be one of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. So for the monthly view, as you can see, this week was also a little bit crazy. It wasn't as crazy as last week, but we did have several transactions go on. This was kind of expected though. At least the majority of them were expected, because my daughters, they did have a competition this weekend, so we knew we were going to be there. But most of this income, most of this budget came from the category that we set aside for cheer expenses, because we know that when we go to competitions, we have to pay for entry fees, we have to pay for food, snacks, whatever we end up paying for. We know that's going to happen, so we put money away. That covered all of it. Things like pictures and parking and food and all that were included. There was also some extra spending that happened. I went to Michael's and I spent some money because I made some shirts for all the girls. So I'll be including that in here as well. But that will be coming out of a sinking fund. So that money I'm not so stressed out about. There's a few other things to note. There was extra spending in our grocery category. So if you tuned in last week, you know that we were really, really low in our grocery category. I think we had something like $26. But for this time, we were able to cash in our rewards for our credit card, and that ended up being $118. And then I had originally, and I think if you watched a couple months back, I was taking my daughter to a Dua Lipa concert to do this whole package with, they got to meet her and take pictures and stuff. But due to COVID, they're kind of canceling that. You're still going to get some exclusive merchandise and some signatures and stuff, but you're not going to get to meet her. So they ended up refunding some money, and so that ended up being $417 that they refunded. So that also went in to kind of make sure that what we were spending was evened out with the budget. And I did that real time through our app that we use. I've mentioned we use Good Budget app. And so in the Good Budget app, when I got the refunds, I put them in our categories, and then we were spending from there. So I made sure that we stayed in our spending as far as that went. But I need to track them in here and kind of track everything that really went down. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can close out any of the previous weeks though. So for this one, our Netflix did end up coming out, and that ended up being $17.99. And there was no change there. So I'll put 0, no change. What do we have? Google has not came out yet. So that one's still there. And my book of the month. My book of the month also came out, and that was $16.23. And there was no change from what I expected. So I just wanted to record that real fast before I go a little further in. So I'm just basically tracking if things have been paid and what were the amounts and what were the differences. This part is really important going forward so that I can get an idea better for what to budget, what each category should be, what I originally thought it was, what it actually ends up being. And then I can kind of keep fine-tuning my budget to make sure I count for everything. I did mark down when these things were paid in the calendar also, just so I have that view. And so let's go on to week 2. I had closed out before, so I don't need to do anything there. And so now week 3, the only thing that I hadn't put yet was cheer. So I did end up paying cheer. So that ended up being $725. And that was $25 difference, but this was positive. You know, I calculated more for cheer So I ended up having $25 extra. I was going to close out on the sides during the videos and stuff, but I want to have those numbers a little bit more detailed. So there was a difference between what we expected to get paid and what we actually got paid. So I'm going to need to account for that, but that I will do separately just so I can see my final numbers once I plug in my income. Week 4, this is where we are right now. So this is going to be paycheck that comes out in the last Friday of January. So this is why this is my week 4 budget, because I get paid every Friday. So last Friday, this is going to be where that kind of stuff is going through, and then that's how I'll track it. So then for next week, so everything that happens from after that paycheck to the next one, that'll be for next month, because that's just the way my weeks fall based on the paycheck and the way I want to track everything. So for week 4, the categories that I have on here are gas, food, entertainment, cheer, debts, and sinking funds. So I'm trying to see if there's anything in here that changed. I had put this kind of as like a pre-planning, and then I've been adjusting our budget as we go. And I do know that I do not have goods in here, and I know that I spent in that category, and this is going to be affected. So I'm going to write goods in there. So plans, most of these are just filling envelopes in basically filling up cash envelopes. So I know the amounts, so I'm going to put the amounts for most of this stuff, and I can actually put planned and actual because that's the money I'm moving into the envelope, and then that's all that happens to there. Everything else is just spending and tracking my envelopes. So for gas, we've been putting $90 a week, and so I'm going to do that again this week, and it's been working out pretty well. I mean, each of us fill up with about 40 to 45, depending when we fill up, so that's been covering it. Food, I'm going to put 200 out of this week. Entertainment, I'm going to be putting $100. Cheer expenses, so this is that category I was telling you that we have to account for things that we spend during competition weekends and stuff. I was putting $190.57 in there. I had put some the previous weeks before, so this was the remaining that I was putting. Debts, I'm going to leave that blank. There's a certain portion of our funds that's going to be going to that, but I'll be doing that separately. Sinking funds, as of right now, and it's not going to change, I plan to put $1,805 into sinking funds, and some of that's already been spent, some of it hasn't. That I'll go into detail of this more in my sinking funds video, so check that out. Goods is going to end up being $100. And then I think that's all I had. Gas, food, entertainment, cheer, goods, debts. Yeah. Okay, so actual amounts, I'm going to go ahead and fill out those in really quickly because those are going to be the same. I'm filling up the cash envelope, so there's really nowhere else for this to go. It's just the discipline of staying within what's in our envelopes. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the planning for here. Like I mentioned, the only category separate is debt, but since there's the difference between what I actually got paid from what I expected, that difference plus the part that I had budgeted is all going to be going into debt. So I'll be doing that separately. Trying to think if there's anything else I need to do on this page. So cash withdrawals, there's no money that I'll have to be taking out cash. And then for rewards, what was the amount that I have to put for rewards? Okay, so I went ahead and figured out that number. So basically I'm just putting together these amounts that are going to go into my envelopes, and that ends up being $680.57. So that's the amount that I need to transfer into my credit card, because we use a credit card for the points, but we make sure that everything we use is already paid off immediately when we have it, so we don't use it until we have it. So we put it in there, our credit card balance goes that we have extra money on top of our credit limit, and then as we do with expenses, it goes back to the base, and then we end up getting rewards, which really helped us this week because we ended up cashing out $118 in rewards. So that's there. So that wraps up week 4. So the last thing is the weekly check-ins. So I've been going through this as we go, and I originally started with 0 in all my envelopes, and I've been adding, we've been spending. Last week we spent a lot, so our amounts, we ended up being negative in a couple categories, and the rest of them were a little bit lower than what we would have liked. So this is going to lead where we start for week 4. So for week 4, I already know what my categories are, and I already know the amounts that I have starting in there. So in our gas category, we had $91.03. For our food category, this is the one that kind of was struggling. We had 20, what was it? I'm lying. Yeah, 26.20. Sorry, I got lost for a second. 26.20, right? Was that right? 26.20. 26.20. Baby was $77. Is that what I ended up with? Yeah, baby was $77. And there's a baby yelling right on cue. Pets, I had $29 and what was it? $29.52. The next one was entertainment, and this one I know I was negative, so I was negative something like $99.44. Next one was chair expenses, and I had $62.80. $62.80. And then the last one is goods. And I think we were negative in this one also. Were we? Yes, negative 189 and 04 cents. Yeah, and 4 cents. So that's how we start off our week. We were a little bit negative in some categories. We had decent amount in others. So there was a lot to go on. So I'm going to go in with what I'm adding. So adding is a combination of the money that I'm putting into the envelopes and then the refunds that I mentioned from the concert tickets and then the rewards. So I separated that into each category, so that ended up being the amount that I added into them to add in those envelopes. So we had that to spend. So for gas, it's basically just the $90 that I budget. I didn't put anything extra. For food, it ended up being $500, and that was from the refund and from what I normally put in, which was the $200 that you saw me mark earlier. For baby, I did not put anything, so that's $0. For pets, I also didn't put anything, so $0. Entertainment, I'm putting $100, and that was from my base budget. That was not part of the money we got back. Share expenses, I ended up putting $265.77. And then for goods, I put $260.50. So these are the amounts that I put into my envelope. So when I was spending, well, originally it was just parts of this before this week's envelope fills, but I had done that in the app, so I knew where I was and I knew where I was going to end up. And then taking away, so we ended up spending $90 out of gas. We ended up spending $323.93 out of food. We did not spend, did we spend? I'm going to have to double check that baby category. Pets, we spent $29.52. For entertainment, we were negative. We didn't spend anything. And now we have What is it? 56 cents. So just went ahead and I fast forward on that one. 56 cents. Where am I? Okay. So then cheer expenses, we ended up spending $193. And so in this category, we have left over $135.57. And that's perfect because this weekend there's another cheer competition. So we can use that for that. This $193, that was for a 2-day competition. This weekend's only 1 day, so the $135 should be plenty. Goods, we were negative, and then we ended up spending $43 on top of that. And so our final balance is $28.17. Okay, I'll write the end amounts here because I didn't start it and then I eventually did. So this ends up being 91.03 is what we have going into the weekend in gas. We end up having 202.27 for food, which is really good because last week, starting with the 26th, that was just horrible. That I already knew like there was an issue. So having 202 going forward is really good. Baby is the one I have to double check. I'm pretty sure that we did spend in that category. So I have to go back and check that. Pets, we ended up spending what we had in there, and that's because we just bought extra stuff for the dogs. And then so that ended up with $0. So baby's the one that I have to check. Okay, so I went ahead and I looked through and I tried to figure out what we spent on baby because I know we did. And we ended up spending $40.63 in baby. And what that was he's already approaching a year. So we just had a little bit more in formula, and it didn't make sense to buy more formula since he's about to transition out of it. So since we had some left, we started doing the mix of regular milk and the formula. But the problem is that for his formula, we have a baby Breeza, so it warms up the milk and it's a really good temperature for him when he gets it. So we knew that going to fresh milk from the fridge, it would be a little difficult to warm it up. So what we ended up doing is we ended up getting a warmer so that we can warm up that milk for him. So it wouldn't be, not only is it a change of milk, we didn't want it to also be like a change in temperature right away from him. For him, we wanted to make sure he was still able to get his warm milk. So that was $40.63, the one that I ordered off Amazon. And then that left us with a total of $36.37. So we still have some in that category. And honestly, since he's transitioning out of formula now, that's really just going to end up being diapers. And then when we buy him clothes, because he's a big boy, he keeps growing. And so I know we're going to need a lot more clothes. My mom even messaged me this morning and she's like, every morning he eats 2 whole eggs. And then even then he still wants like more food, but she feeds him the 2 eggs. So she's like, he's going to just continue to grow. So I know I'm going to need more clothes. So the baby category going forward is going to end up being diapers and clothes for him. And with him, he has his category because I have 3 daughters. So he has 3 older sisters and they've been able to, pass down clothes between all of them. Problem with him is he's the only boy. So there's no one to get clothes from. So he needs a category because he needs clothes. I'm starting really fresh with him. I have no, back supply of clothes that I can use for him. So after this week's check-in, I really feel good. We have a good decent amount in each of our envelopes. So going into the weekend and ending this month, I feel like we're in a really good spot. Obviously, I feel like there is some adjustments that I'm going to have to make for next month's budget. And I want to take those into consideration when I start going through and planning next month's budget. So that finishes up the cash envelope, which is where we do all our spending. The last thing is sinking funds. So like I mentioned, I'm going to do a sinking funds video where I go over just kind of summing up what happened in sinking funds and what our plan is going forward. But I am going to track the transaction that occurred through sinking funds. And that was that we went to Michael's And I spent, what did I end up spending? I ended up spending $86.48. And that ends up coming out of the office budget. So if you watched my other videos when I talked about the office budget. So my office budget is basically anything that has to do with my office. So I have my own office in the room, and in my office, I have obviously my computer set up and everything for when I work from home. I have my cutter in there. I have my vinyl. I have everything from my sticker shop. Yes, by the way, I have my sticker shop. Next week, I'm going to be launching April's kits. So go check that out. Starting Monday, April kits will be up, but all the beautiful kits that I have already designed are already there. But that kind of supplies too is out of office. So I have an office fund for that. When I went to Michael's, I ended up making shirts for my daughter's cheer team. And since that was crafts, basically, so it's office, but I guess it could be crafts, but not all of it ends up being crafts. Some of it ends up being just office supplies that I need, whether I need ink, whether I need whatever the case may be, a new, power brick to connect everything or whatever, that comes out of office. So I guess it's office / crafts. So because of that, that's where that transaction comes out on. So that's all I need to track for this video. Like I mentioned, make sure you check out that sinking fund video. I'll go over, my sinking funds, what I put in, where I put it, the amounts that I have in each category, and then my plan going forward. And then also I'll be putting in February's budget video up pretty soon. I'm using all these numbers now that I've kind of wrapped out the majority of this month. I'm going to use these numbers to do my February budget, and then that way I have it a little bit more accurate. So that's kind of the trend that I expect to happen. I expect that my budget is going to be changing every month, as everybody's budget should. Life isn't stagnant, things change. That's why you have to budget monthly, so you can account for all those different things. And then as you track and you notice trends and you notice, amounts that are spent and stuff like that, you're able to fine tune it. So that's a little bit easier, and you end up seeing less variation. So that'll definitely be happening in my February video. So other than that, that's all I had. Thank you guys for joining and tuning into this video. As you can see, we did do some spending, but we're still on track, so it's okay. That's the one thing with budgeting that people have to remember, is that budgeting is not, where, oh, you can't spend anything and spending is taboo. No, that's not the point of budgeting. The point of budgeting is knowing where your money is going, and then making sure that when you know where it goes and then you know how much you want to spend, you can make your money work for you. But it doesn't mean that it means you can never spend. It's giving yourself permission to spend in certain categories based on your trends and based off your financial needs. And so that's kind of, I feel like this really demonstrates that. I mean, yes, we spent, and doing a budget doesn't mean we can't spend. It just means that we need to plan for those things better. And maybe there's a few things in here that we didn't need, so we can see that for next month and know, okay, well, let's go down on that. We didn't need that. We don't need to be doing that. We can adjust going forward. But that's all I have for you guys. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit subscribe. Go on over to my Etsy shop. The link is down in the comments. You can see all the beautiful kits I have available. And on Monday, January the 31st, I'll be releasing April's kits. You can go ahead and check those out also. They're already, I have them mostly done. It's just cutting them through, and I'll tell you right now, they are so freaking adorable. I was really excited making these months because, when I opened my shop, it was a little bit more stressful. I wanted to make sure I provided a good variety of kits, so I was getting a whole bunch of kits made out quickly. Not quickly, I mean, I did take time on it, but I had a lot more to do at a time. Since it was just for April, I only made 4 new kits, so I was able to kind of take my time, be a little bit more picky on what designs I wanted and stuff. And thank you guys for tuning in, and see you later. Bye, guys.